You're listening to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, episode number 205. Today I speak with bestselling author, podcaster, and fitness instructor for more than 40 years, Shemane Nugent, on living abundantly well. After a life-threatening illness caused by toxic mold, Shemane has dedicated her life to serving the Lord and helping others live vibrantly, age gracefully, and energize their faith. She lives with her husband, rocker Ted Nugent, and their dogs in Texas. Welcome to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, where we gain inspiration and motivation from others who share their touching stories of renewing hope and discovering purpose in any circumstance. I'm your host, Christina Reisinger, and today we will be encouraged by another tremendously inspirational topic that will embolden you to release fear, begin taking small steps forward, and move into your God-given purpose to live and serve in this life. Join me for today's story. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Faith Breathed Hope show. I am your host, Christina Reisinger, and today I am here with Shemane Nugent. Hey, Shemane, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Christina.
I'm so excited to have you. I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of things, including your book that you came out with just recently. However, one of the things that I geek out on is health and wellness and how we can totally use the things that the Lord has provided in his creation to help us look at things in a different way. But before we get into that, would you share with the audience a little something about you that maybe not everyone knows?
Well, this is probably a good one. My name, Shemane, comes from the movie El Cid with Sophia Loren and Charlton Heston. How about that? That was her, Sophia Loren's name, her character's name in the movie.
Okay, that is cool. So were your parents big movie buffs?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. Okay. That's nice. All right. So you've written a book called Abundantly Well. And is this I guess your most recent book you come out with, and you talk about health and wellness. And it's based on biblical principles. Can you talk a little bit about what experience you've had in the past that led you to decide that you wanted to write this?
Well, there are many, Christina, those things that bring us to our knees, bring us closer to God, I believe. And I've had, like everybody else, trials and tribulations. But the most significant one, I think, was I lost my home to toxic mold and I almost died from it. And I wrote about that in another book called Killer House. That's available on Amazon, How to Recognize, Remediate, and Recover from Toxic Mold. And I think that set me up. It's not like I was growing up and I thought, oh, I want to be known as the mold lady. But I can help a lot of people. So if that's how God can use me, I'm here to help. And so Abundantly Well came about because I didn't want my legacy to just be doom and gloom and just about toxic mold and how sick I got and how sick a lot of other people are and how crappy the building construction industry is. And I could go on and on about that, but I wanted to write Abundantly Well to talk about, okay, now what do we do? How do we really get healthy? And I've been in the health and fitness industry for 44 years, since 1980. And I've taught just about every exercise program there is, from step to spinning to slide, kickboxing, and of course, Zumba. I was an international Zumba fitness presenter and trainer, traveled all over the world doing that. And so I had made kind of a pact, a promise to God that if I could get healed from, I was once diagnosed with having pre-emphysema, and I don't smoke, and I had 4 different types of mold in my bloodstream. And again, when you get to the point where you're on your knees, getting closer to God, I made this pact that or promised to God that I will share my tips and tricks about getting healthy, about keeping weight off, because I know that's something that a lot of women and men struggle with as well. And I have too. In college, I was 30 pounds heavier than I am now. So I get it. It just constantly feels like you're trying to keep your head above water every single day. So that's why I wrote this book called Abundantly Well.
Mm-hmm. There's so many places that we can go with this, but I believe that God places things in our lives and situations that we go through. A lot of times we look at them at first as, oh my goodness, I have to go through this. This is happening to me. However, like you indicated, it is so that we can share with others how they can get through things as well, how he shows up. So when we're going through such things as sickness and illness, and, I'm sure that everyone listening to this has either gone through something personally or they have a loved one that has gone through stuff. Can you share how we can stop in the middle of our storm or chaos, whatever is going on with us, to recognize that God is working and he's still there? Because I believe a lot of times people are like, gosh, he's abandoned me. Where is he? Can you speak to that, please?
Absolutely. And it's difficult. I'm going to be honest. I'm not here to say I'm a theologian. I train like a CrossFit professional or whatever. I'm figuring it out as I go, just like everybody else is. And I do believe that each of our situations, our circumstances are different. But for me, what has worked is in the eye of the storm. It's really difficult to open a book and go, okay, what do I do? Get me out of this situation. Other than the fact that we have to have faith that moves mountains. And during the difficult time, like when you're in the storm, and I don't know if you've seen that movie, The Perfect Storm, when the water's coming over the ship and people are shouting and there's a shark or whatever it is, there are unseen circumstances and unseen forces that the devil wants to kill, steal, and destroy. And what better way, Christina, than to make you sick, to make you depressed, to make you doubt your faith. So whenever something like this happens to me, and it actually just did, some good friends of mine have a really, really bad flu. And I happened to be with this one friend a few days ago. And she called me and said, just wanted to let you know, I'm really sick. My husband's really sick. We were together. We had lunch together. And, your brain starts working overtime going, oh my gosh, is that I'm going to get sick and I'm going to die. And it's so easy to get caught up in that. Yeah. The first thing I do before I even open my eyes in the morning is count my blessings. Thank God for everything that I have. The other day, it was like super cold. And I was so grateful for heat, for a bed. If we can do that, if we can take baby steps and go, here's what I have right now. Maybe you do have your health. Maybe somebody in your life doesn't. Maybe you can help them. So I'm sorry if I went off tangent, but
no, I love exploring this. I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine. You and I discussed, you said you've been in the fitness world. I'm in the dance world.
Oh,
and, so I was talking to one of our parents that I'm actually friends with the other day, and they have a family member who the prognosis is not good. And, everybody, if you've listened to this show, that in 2016, we lost our daughter. And so, like I said, everybody has this, it's something that you're going through, somebody that's going through something. And the discussion centered around just being able to carry on, like having all these things scheduled in life, for not only the parent, but for the child and all the things, all the people, because you feel responsible, and just saying, hey, I'm afraid to schedule anything because X, Y, and Z may happen. Knowing that God is still good inside of that storm, even though you may be preparing for a funeral, unfortunately, or something, that's going on. Maybe it's not necessarily that extreme. Maybe you're trying to heal your body, but it's just knowing that so many people are going through things, and knowing that it's okay to stop and pause, I think. And do you talk about rest when you talk about this kind of thing?
Well, first of all, I am so sorry to hear about your daughter. I would love to have you on my show and for you to tell your story, because I think it's important that we do share our stories. And so rest, yes, I need to practice what I preach. I've been doing a lot of interviews to launch this book. And I had told the publisher, yes, sign me up, sign me up. And I got to the point where I was doing 6 of these a day, in addition to all the other things that I'm doing. And I wasn't working out. I was getting up earlier, going to bed later. I wasn't getting good rest. And this is, I think, the third, it came out January 7th. So this is like week number 3 that I'm slowing down a little bit, and I'm recognizing, I have a chapter on my book about rest, how important it is. And I used to feel guilty that I would go and work out. My husband would say, where are you going? I'm going to the gym. Like, it just felt like, unnecessary. I could come up with a bunch of other reasons why I shouldn't. I had errands to run, things to do, and I have to put myself first, because it's like what the flight attendant says, fill up, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before helping other people. And if we don't have a full cup of water, we can't continue to pour it out and help other people. So I want to encourage anybody who's watching or listening that you've got to be a little bit selfish. And I think as women, we tend to put the needs of other people before ourselves. And I'm 62, and I'm realizing now that I'm so grateful that I have my health back for the most part. I still struggle with a lot of things. That's a whole nother podcast. As far as like headaches and 62, joint pain, like arthritis. I have arthritis. I'm going, oh my gosh, this is a little bit different for me. But, rest and relaxation is essential for us to recharge our batteries. So yeah. And I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind me asking you a question. You mentioned you're in dance. Sure. I have to tell you a funny story about dance, but what kind of background do you have in dance?
Oh, well, I have danced since I was 3. I have a minor in dance, and I teach at our one of the studios. It's not my studio, but I teach lyrical and strength.
Wow. Yes. Good for you. So my funny story is, I had a little bit of dance background, nothing like what you had. I did modern dance and things like that in high school, and I was a cheerleader. That's about it. That's my extent of dance. Well, when I met my husband, who, I don't know if you know, he is a rock and roll musician. Did you?
I didn't. I recognize the last name, but I'm sorry.
No.
Get out much.
I didn't know who he was.
Probably know the music though.
See, I didn't even know when I met him. I didn't know any of his music if my life depended on it. So I didn't know anything about the rock and roll industry. Again, probably another podcast. But the funny story about dance was, my husband's manager, when we first met, he said to me, he asked me, are you a dancer? And I thought, oh, maybe I just have good posture. Like that's what I really thought. Well, in the rock and roll industry, if you're a dancer, it probably involves a pole.
Oh my, okay.
So for like 2 years, he thought I was a dancer. I'm like,
okay, got it.
No.
Oh my goodness, that was so funny. I want to go back to the rest piece or whatever. One of the things, I think you had mentioned the word guilt, and it's okay to use your mask before you help other people, because you're no good if you don't do that. I told you I was talking to a friend of mine, and so one of the things that came up was, oh my goodness, what if this particular event happens and we're unable to go to a competition? And so a lot of times we live life, and I'm not just talking about dance competitions, but we live life and we have certain goals. We want to be successful. We want to do all the things. We, as you even mentioned, we make our lives super busy so that we can be successful. Knowing that God says rest is important, knowing that, guess what, life is still going to be there. You say, oh, well, I don't want to let life pass me by. I don't want to be lazy, but there's a balance to where you say, hey, okay, if I miss this particular competition, I've been working hard for it, but is it the end of the world? Is it really something that I can't come back from? Can you say some encouraging words to the audience right now about being able to accept the rest? Because there's one thing where you have the rest, I guess, but then there's another thing where you can accept it and not beat yourself up for it.
For me, I've noticed as I age, it's a whole different ball game. I understand why you see images of older people sitting on the porch or in the rocking chair drinking an iced tea, because as we get older, our priorities change.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I rely on God, the more I realized, God is enough. Sure, I'd like to have my own whatever, fill in the blank, X, Y, or Z, nice handbag, nice job, nice whatever it is, fill in the blank. But it's those times when I start thinking about that again, I go back and I count my blessings, and I think, God's enough right now. He will direct my path. And that's what I pray for every day, wisdom and discernment, and to make the right decisions. I don't always. And I think it's really important to give ourselves grace as well.
Absolutely. I think that sometimes people have a difficult time giving themselves grace. Maybe they have a difficult time giving other people grace. I, worked with some kids that I noticed this perfectionism, which as a teacher, as a mentor, I don't want to teach them not to go for what they want and to go at it wholeheartedly. However, it's difficult to watch that perfectionism because if you've been through that, you can see how it explodes. And it's just, it's not very healthy, I don't think. That's just, I guess, my personal thought on that. But I think like there is a super big balance on that. In your book, is there anything that you really want to, like, the main point of how you want people to receive this book or to use the book abundantly well?
I love to see people. I've gotten a few images from people, and I've seen a lot of the reviews on Amazon that are really positive. And somebody sent me an image where they were coloring in the book and writing in the book and drawing in the book. I love that. I want this book to be used, and it's designed to be a 40-day wellness devotional. Every day is going to be something different. And it starts at asking the question, where are you at? Like, if you get a text from somebody saying WYA, where are you at? This book is for the exercise enthusiast who does CrossFit competitions, or the 50-year-old, 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old, 80-year-old who wakes up one day and is like, I've never worked out in my life. I don't even know what to do. What do I do? So I walk you through every step of the way. I want to be your cheerleader. I want to be alongside you and help you, encourage you, and motivate you. And again, we're not always perfect. None of us are. We're never going to make all of the right choices. I share from 44 years of experience in the fitness industry. There are some tips and tricks that you can do to lose weight and keep it off without giving up your favorite foods and without spending hours a day in the gym. I work out about, I would say, 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Sometimes I'll go an hour, and I mix it up, but I share all my workouts, some of my favorite recipes. It's not just a diet book. It's not just an exercise book. I do believe that you have to incorporate faith into overall abundant wellness. if we could look great in, our bathing suit, walking on the beach, but if we're not happy inside, we don't have that peace that only God can give, and we don't feel like we're walking in our purpose, then those things weigh heavy on us. There's a lot of baggage to carry around. So I help the reader sort through all those things and have a mind, body, spirit approach to living an abundantly well life.
I love it. I love it. We have we have an awful lot of things in common that I can tell you off the show, but just all the things that you're saying is just beautiful. What percentage do you think, would you say, maybe was mind over physicality? Like, because this is a discussion my husband and I have. He's a veteran, and we run together off and on throughout our marriage. We run, and like you said, there's some days that I'm on it and I can run several miles. There have been times we've done a half marathon together. I did David Goggins 4x4x48 a year ago, and just it kind of ebbs and flows depending on, like you said, the time and how much you've scheduled into everything. But one thing I will say is that he has been paramount in helping me overcome some mindset issues where I never really thought that there was any issue with the physicality because I was a dancer, but the more of, oh my gosh, I can't run 5 miles without dying.
I don't love to run either. I'm with you. We do have a lot in common. But go. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, you're fine. That was just wanted to know, like, what in your opinion is, and I'm sure there's research on it, I just don't know. Like, is it 90% in your head that, like, because I keep trying to tell even my mom who's not well in certain areas in her life, I'm like, if you just do a little bit, a little bit more today than you did yesterday. And yes, it is going to hurt because when we try to do extra, it does hurt. And you have to know that fine line between whether or not it's good for you or it's, pushing you to help you grow, kind of a thing. Can you speak about that too?
I think it is about 80% mental, what we go through. But let's say you have an injury, which I do now. I've been lifting weights and I don't know what it is, but for 2 weeks, my shoulders it still works. Like I didn't tear anything or rip anything, but it hurts me. So getting that contributes to my mental, oh gosh, I can't lift weights on there. I can't do these big arm motions or things like that. It all ties in. You got to feel good in order to do good. And then in order to do good, you've got to have that extra effort. I'll tell you an interesting story. My son played basketball and he was really good. He was a 3-point shooter and worked really hard. And he played in off season, like a select league. And the coach brought some of us together, some of the parents together. And the coach had a side with me, just talking with me and saying, Rocco's really good. He's amazing. He's got such drive and effort and discipline. And he goes, everything I ask him to do, he does. And it's kind of like he won't stop until I ask him to. And there was another dad nearby, and the other dad kind of went over my shoulder and went, how do I get my son to do that? And the coach said, I don't think you can. Yeah. I think it's something that is ingrained with us. And one of the things that I talk about in my book is think back to those things, those disappointments that we had during our childhood. We all have them. Mm-hmm. If you had to put a weight, like, let's just say somebody said something horrible to you and just a random weight like that, 20 pounds, death of a parent or a child. I mean, I can't even imagine. You're carrying that weight around with you every single day. And it's very difficult to release it and let it go and give it to God. And sometimes that's the most that we can do is ask for grace in that area, give ourselves some grace to release that baggage, to release that weight on our shoulders, because it does affect our mind, body, and spirit. The body keeps a score. And I think that's really paramount.
Yeah, I think that's a book. I've actually trying to read that book. God is so good in his connections. I don't know if you realize this. I'm sure you have, in all of the interaction you have with the people that you interview on your show and everything. But how God works is so interesting to me, because you're talking about how you have all this weight and then it affects how you show up. Now, my youngest is 10, and we are currently reading a book called Graceful Ballet Devotionals, I believe it is. And so it's really a cute book for, anybody who wants to read it with their little ballerina. But today we talked about the bun, the hair. And it's so interesting the way that the author put everything together. She's talking about how ballerinas have their hair up in a bun for many different reasons. And one of them is so that the teacher and the student are not distracted. And then she goes on to segue into the fact that, we have all these distractions in life, and to ask the Lord to have a clarity of what his purpose is for us, and allow us not to be distracted with those things. And so that opens up the doors to talk about just what you just mentioned, and having all these things that can weigh heavy on us, and how we can trust God to help us through those things in order to show up better for ourselves and for others. So anyways, that was another segue, but
I love that. I want to get that book.
Yeah, it is great. I'm actually getting ready to interview that author as well. So I'm excited about that, but it's a great
amazing
book. So, God just does things in miraculous ways, and how he creates conversations in one space that connect to another. So I'm really excited about that. Shemane, what encouragement would you give somebody who said, well, they're making up all the excuses, and they're like, well, you just don't understand. Your situation is different. You're what? She said you were 60 and you're
62.
62.
I worked hard for those 2 extra years.
And you look vibrant and beautiful, and you have all this stuff going on for you, but that's not me. I'm sitting here, and I've got all these other heavy weights, as you would say. How can that person, overcome that mentality of the heaviness and just start, just like Nikki says, just do it, kind of a thing?
Well, if we're talking about, let's say, for example, working out, how can you just start when you have a bunch of excuses and you feel like you're not good enough? I've traveled a lot, and I go to a lot of different gyms, and I walk in the gym, and it's daunting. Like, some of these machines look like they're medieval torture chambers. So I understand that. One of the things that I read about in my book that can apply to that situation is getting prepared, planning. So lay out your gym clothes the night before, or put them in your car. Get everything ready, from the water bottle to the towel to your shoes. Like, I've actually went to the gym before and forgot my tennis shoes. Can't work out at all today. I can't even go home and work out. Like, I will fill in the blank as to make up excuses why I can't, continually work out. But if we plan ahead, and another opportunity for follow through is to have a friend, to phone a friend. I think it's really important to have accountability, and if you can't make it to the gym, of course, emergencies come up, but if you call somebody and I just don't feel like it, I'm not in the mood to work out, you're letting them down as well. So those are a couple different ways that people can, I think, adjust or refocus on what we're I don't know how old you are, but at 62, I've lived life a certain way, and it gets, the older I get, the more I just really get comfortable. I'm like, I don't want to go skydiving. I just don't want to do things like that. So it's hard. I read somewhere where, I don't know, it might be a meme going around where somebody says, do one thing, I've heard a day, but I would say one thing a month, or one thing a year that kind of scares you. Maybe not
Mhm.
skydiving, but maybe
Yeah.
I'm taking flying lessons.
Oh,
I never thought I
wow.
would do that. So,
Oh, I love
one
that.
thing that you never thought you might do or try a certain workout you never thought you would do, go with
Yes.
a friend and say, let's try Pilates. I've never done that. Let's just try it.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's an amazing thing because it provides that opportunity for growth. And I'm assuming as we get older, those opportunities are what kind of keep us going and keep us healthier. So
Yeah. Yeah.
do you have any scripture that you might want to share with the audience? Anything that comes to your heart or that you've written in your book that you just want to share, or just other encouragement? It's fine.
Well, I always end my show, my Faith and Freedom show on Real America's Voice with Esther 4:14. And it's so, I think, pertinent to a lot of us today, to me anyway, because there are a lot of times when I even, I'll be honest, maybe you don't have this, but if I'm doing an interview with somebody or I'm getting ready to do a Facebook Live or whatever it is, maybe they don't want to hear that. I kind of second guess myself a little bit. Nah, who's going to want to hear that message? Esther 4:14, if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from someplace else. But who knows? Perhaps you and your father's house will perish. Who knows? I'm summarizing.
Right.
Maybe you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this. So I think of that during this time. I don't know. There's a lot of things going on in the world. It seems kind of biblical. And I often think about, should I do a Facebook Live about mold? Yes, and I wrote in one of my books, I have another book out called Married to a Rock Star that I wrote about 20 years ago, which is about another tribulation that I endured in my marriage. And again, I remember the last page of the book. If this book can help just one person, then the hundreds of hours that I've spent without pay, without any praise, but putting pen to paper at the time, typing this out has been worth it. So I think that's something. Check out Esther 4:14 and see if that resonates with you.
I'm going to say right now that I remember reading this verse and thinking that God has a purpose. He has a plan. And if we're not going to step up, then he's going to find somebody else who will. And I think that's essentially the point of that particular verse. You talk about how you're going to come to the table and you're going to tell your story. And if we don't show up, I really believe that God has given us our stories so that we share. And they're not for us. They're so that we can help bring other people to the kingdom. And so I think that if we don't share what we've been through, and I'm not talking about shoving it through somebody's face or anything like that, but if we don't share what we've been through, then we're doing ourselves and the kingdom a disservice, because we can bring other people. And you mentioned the book, if only one person, got something out of it. And I can resonate with that so much, because one of the things that people ask when you have a show is, how many followers do you have? How many people are following you on social? How many people are listening to your show? How many downloads do you have? And I'm going to say, I don't know. I told the Lord years ago, I said, if you use me to reach one person, then that's it. If you want to expand my borders and you want me to reach millions of people, then equip me. All those things. So, but yeah, I love that you mentioned that, because I think a lot of people get really caught up into that, and they think that means you arrive somehow. But
I'm with you. I'm with you. I have no idea how many books I've sold. I have no idea how many followers I have.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just want to do God's work, and I'm not perfect at it. Obviously, I just keep trying every day. I'm grateful for the day and for the conversations and the people that I get to meet, like you, that we have a lot in common with.
Amen. So, Shemane, will you tell everybody in the audience where they can find your books?
My books are on Amazon. My Married to a Rockstar book, though, if anybody wanted to pick that up, it's a lot of money. And I'll tell you why. It's not published anymore. It's out of print. So I was thinking about re-releasing it, but I don't know. I'm kind of busy. But other books, I wrote Killer House, which is a best-selling book about toxic mold, how to recognize, remediate, and recover from toxic mold. And then my Abundantly Well book is all of those books are on Amazon. My website is ShemaneNugent.rocks, ROCKS. And I am on social media. I have fun. I sometimes do dancing videos.
Oh, love it.
I'm silly. I think more of us should have a childlike demeanor. I think that's
Absolutely.
godlike. So I hope so anyway. And I do some serious stuff too, but I'm on Facebook, Rumble. My show called Faith in Freedom is on Real America's Voice, realamericasvoice.com. And it's out every Sunday. And I have the blessed opportunity to interview amazing people like Kirk Cameron, Candace Cameron Bure, Charlie Kirk, Donald Trump Jr., pastors, Pastor Dave Bryan, Pastor Ben Graham, Pastor Anthony Thomas, so many pastors and authors and actors and politicians. And yeah, there's this guitar player that pops up on my show a lot too. But I have a lot of fun. I enjoy it. And I hope that other people find it entertaining and educational.
Awesome. That sounds wonderful. And I'm excited that you get to have all these amazing conversations with people. I'm sure they're full of a lot of richness. So make sure that you check out Shemane's books and on Amazon, but also her show. And you can see it in the background of her film right now, Faith and Freedom. So yeah. Yeah, otherwise. Thank you so much, Shemane, for being on Faith Breathed Hope. I've enjoyed our conversation.
What a blessing. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And you're going to have to come on mine.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. So, and for those of you out there, continue to be blessed and bless others, and we'll see you next time.